I don't know about y'all, but I could do with a little rewind, a little look back, a little nostalgia right about now. And I can always go for some quality time with beautiful art. So it's a good thing the Other Art Fair is back in Chicago, April 9th through the 12th. This year's theme is Nostalgia Core. So you can find a curated selection of interactive artist-led projects that celebrate those memories that make us, a little misty-eyed. Support 115 plus independent artists and meet them in person at Artifact events in Ravenswood. Tickets start at just $20. Book them now at theotherartfair.com. Today on CityCast Chicago, a teacherless AI school is coming to the city. Delivery robots are crashing into bus shelters. But come on, there's gotta be some other Chicago news to talk about, right? It's Thursday, March 26th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. We've got executive producer Simone Alicea back in the building with us. Simone, how you feeling today?
I'm okay, Jacoby. How are you?
I'm all right. I feel like I already said it this week, but we have talked more about AI in 2026 than any other point in our history. I'm watching The Pitt right now, so I'm having to engage with like AI in the healthcare system. I'm a teacher and professor, so I've already had to deal with what AI means for my students using ChatGPT to develop their public speaking scripts. I mean, we are talking about data centers across the city and the state. We talk about how terrible AI looks from a generative standpoint on social media. But Simone, it feels like things just keep going further and further because now I'm hearing for the first time ever that an AI-powered school that is going to remove teachers and focus on 2-hour learning inside the building is coming to downtown Chicago this fall. It doesn't even seem like it's being proposed or voted on. It seems like it's officially moving into the city later this year.
Block Club Chicago covered this and to your point, I think it's sort of like you see this and you're like, wait, there's no process over it. So Alpha School is a private school that is going to be opening in the Loop for the 2026-2027 school year. And they say that they're intending to serve about 100 students, K through 8. Their whole model. So Alpha Schools has some schools in some other states. They've been doing this for a minute. And their model is basically focused largely on AI-powered instruction. Kids come in the morning and do these. They're on their laptops. They're doing these sort of virtual AI-powered personalized lessons. And then in the afternoons, they are working on what Alpha calls sort of like hands-on workshops. They describe them as being very like entrepreneurial in nature. So like doing TEDx youth talks or like how to run a food truck or, stuff like that. And to your point, they will not be hiring teachers. They hire adult guides, quote unquote,
essentially to be like coaches who are there to help monitor the classroom, help students if they get stuck, but they are not developing lesson plans. They're not standing in the front of the classroom, running through lectures, grading homework assignments per se. They're really there as a essentially middle person to not just leave the kids in the rooms with the laptop, it seems. Now, some do have an education background, so that's not to say they're just hiring any old person to just sit in the classroom. This is not like everybody's gym teacher when we was coming up in elementary school, but it does sound like the lessons are derived from the AI system. The way those lessons are coordinated around standardized tests, SATs, that's all built into the system. And again, the teachers have a much more passive role, it seems, in this whole thing.
It's interesting because, they've come out and said that they actually want to recruit local teachers from Chicago offering salaries starting at $100,000 a year to be these guides. And so to your point, I don't think the point is necessarily to have kind of any random adult as part of this. The other thing that they say, when we talk about sort of AI powered, and some of the tools that they're using, this isn't just like, oh, your kid's on ChatGPT and has access to the internet. They say it's a closed loop system, that the tools that they're using kind of only exists, and that's why the kids like they go to a physical place, right? The school is still a physical place. They're not necessarily doing this from home. They have, like I said, they've been operating in some other states. They've even tried to get charter school status in some other states, and have been rejected, I think, most places so far, except in Arizona. And, I think the biggest reason for that, right, again, charter schools are privately managed, but publicly funded. And I think the biggest reason for that is, Pennsylvania, I think, put it pretty succinctly of like, this is untested. We have no idea if this is a good idea or if this works. No, we're not going to give you any public money for this.
No, and they don't have enough data to this point. Like, we know they've been around for a little bit. Founded in 2014 out in Austin. Like you said, they have spots in Miami. They're trying to expand to Virginia, other parts of California. But the criticism is well documented. People have made complaints about the lesson plan designs, which, again, we've already had so many questions about how much are we teaching to the test? How much is standardized testing dictating the curriculum inside of these classrooms? And it sounds like with AI at the wheel, that is its number one sort of teaching pedagogy, is preparing students for standardized tests. Teachers have complained that the lesson plans it is spitting out, the multiple choice questions it's spitting out for students, have been proven to be illogical, that the answers don't make any sense. The instruction is not really helpful. And some of those former guides and coaches have complained that the entire time students are being monitored through their computers. Their video is being recorded, their audio is being recorded. And
well, also like eye movements, keyboard tracking, like really kind of detailed stuff.
And I know a lot of people are listening and have been in like a Teams or something where it's like you are being monitored if you work remotely. Like, how active is your computer? Is your mouse moving? Are you working inside documents? I've had friends tell me they've literally taken a nap and just like put like something moving on their mouse to keep
on their
things
mouse,
going.
Yeah.
But students have made complaints that they're afraid, that the fact that not only they're being surveilled the entire time, but concerns around the security and access to those files. Apparently, it's almost like putting things on a Google Drive, and if someone has access to the link, they can see all of the information and the data there. And so, I mean, we have talked ad nauseum at this point about my concerns around AI and the way it has really popped up in so many tools, whether it's my social media, my search engines, like the whiplash of AI's adoption. And again, the fact that the data centers to power them are being sold to us as these economic engines to pull disinvested cities and townships and municipalities out of economic hardship. It's clear that this speed is moving much faster than any of us can account for, any of us can make sense of. And the fact that we're already at the point where we're saying administrators, teachers, and staff members won't drive the curriculum, but rather the artificial intelligence in the system, which, again, we've talked about, how well is this dealing with cultural and racial differences? How attuned is it to different learning capabilities, different physical abilities? At the top of every semester, I get reports on the type of resources that my students need and the ways I must adapt. But the idea that everything they're going to be learning curriculum wise is on and in the computer and designed by the system that's very alarming to me, especially at the price point of $35,000 to $70,000 across the country.
Yeah, $55,000 a year in Chicago, is what tuition is slated to be, which is about the same as my tuition was at Northwestern when I graduated. Just to kind of like put that into context, like it's not. I think my tuition with food and board and everything was something like $60K. So
you paying college prices. I mean, obviously, this won't be a school a ton of Chicagoans are going to. They're only going to have room for 100 people, kindergarten through 8th grade. But how can you not look at that and see those young people as science experiments to test an unproven system?
But I also think the other thing that's sort of interesting here is I do think, the presence of a school like Alpha and sort of their business model, I think is trying to address a frustration that I do think a lot of families have, a frustration or a fear that a lot of families have, which is just that, like, is does regular school, for lack of a better way of putting it, work? Is it actually educating my kid? Are they, is there a better way that they could be learning, right? And I think like when we think about how public schools work, I know there's a lot of frustration of like, our kids sort of being educated at the level they need to be educated at. We know there was a lot of COVID learning loss when the switch to remote learning, but we have seen
I
some
know
of those
teachers
scores.
have concerned about the students who are coming into their grade level aren't at the correct reading level, aren't at the correct writing or math level. And so, and the system of holding students back or summer school has gotten more laxed in the pandemic era.
I think it is, and it's very tough because what public schools have to do, and they're in a tough situation, is you have to be able to serve everyone. And on a fundamental level, different kids have different needs, right? And so there are reasons that I think that public schools sort of, when we think about pedagogy and curriculum and how things get taught, like, again, they certainly have their own issues. And there's certainly, I think if you talk to a lot of like CPS high school students who feel like they're on a bit of conveyor belt themselves when it comes to that kind of thing. And so then when you see something like, oh, they get to do these entrepreneurial workshops, like learning to run their own food truck or how to run their own Airbnb, and they're learning these financial literacy skills. How many times, Jacoby, have you talked to someone who was like, man, I wish someone taught me how to pay my taxes in high school, right?
100%.
Like we kind of have these ideas of what we wish we would have learned in school, or what I hope my kid is learning in school, that there are elements of Alpha's model here that I think appeal to. I think, to me, the sort of fundamental the thing that is still fundamentally alarming to me is that the core basics, reading, writing, math, language arts, the idea of that not being sort of led primarily by humans. The other thing that I think is kind of key here, so Alpha has sort of pointed to that, their students are performing well on these standardized tests, in the top 1-2%. But, there's some experts have pointed out, like, well, it doesn't really make sense to compare these students whose parents can afford, tens of thousands of dollars a year for tuition to the general populace and the general population of students taking these tests. In fact, what you want to do is you want to compare them to students at other elite private schools who are also really high performing. I don't know that we have those comparisons. But, when you think of schools like, the Latin school in Chicago, right, that is this sort of like high end prep school that with really high performers, or even specifically to Chicago's selective enrollment schools, right? Like, I think when we think about these comparisons, it doesn't make sense to compare the performance of these students to CPS writ large, but you got to compare them to these other schools where you have privileged families who are able to kind of take advantage of what these have to offer, or other parents who are able to pay $55,000 a year.
Because we are driven so much by, we want our kids to, like the rhetoric of, we want our kids to succeed, we want them to compete in a global marketplace. It feels like it gives us sort of carte blanche ability to experiment in the education space in ways that we would not do otherwise. And this school feels like an experiment that, again, idealistically sounds good on its face, but given all of the ways we've scrutinized
I'm not even sure if idealistically it sounds good on its face, per se.
The idea of students having shorter lessons, like AI aside, the idea of students having shorter lessons, more interactive courses, learning more realistic life skills, like all of those things, right? Remove the AI portion. Like, and that's the thing, because they can say, like I was reading, one of the job description for the guides is instead, you'll lead workshops, ignite curiosity, and prove that learning knows no bounds when students own their education. Like, if that's a bunch of PR word salad, what does that actually mean? But because the goal is to uplift young people, it feels like the scrutiny is like scrutiny becomes an after the fact. Like, no, why are we criticizing this? We should try this. This could help us, help us close the gap of learning loss we've seen in years. We should give this a try. And so it feels like it just allows the gates to open up a little wider for so many different pedagogies to come through, led by tech billionaires and people connected to the Trump administration, which, again, not leaving me with a whole bunch of confidence at all.
Hi, CityCast listeners. This is David Plotz. I'm the CEO of CityCast, but I also have another job. I'm one of the hosts of the Political Gabfest, Slate's politics podcast. Every week, I get on mic with my co-hosts Emily Bazelon and John Dickerson, and we talk about politics and a lot more about other things that we care about. The Gabfest has been going for more than 20 years because the three of us love talking to each other, and we have an amazing community of listeners. If you like the open-hearted, curious way CityCast approaches cities, I think you'll like the Political Gabfest too. Stream it on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast.
Simone, we have gone back and forth about how we feel about going outside to a delivery robot named Andre, pulling up with our takeout order. And maybe the delivery robots heard what we had to say. I know the city currently is going through a couple of pilot programs, giving some companies the opportunity to test out their machines on our roads. A lot of them are in like the downtown, West Loop, Westtown area, but
or up here on the north side, yeah.
Or up there on the north side. But Simone, it seemed like robots don't like how I was talking about them, calling them clankers and everything.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Are they taking their revenge? Who's to say? So a video has been making the rounds of a delivery robot crashing into a CTA bus shelter, shattering the window on Grand in Westtown. That was a robot operated by Serve Robotics. And just as, the discourse has been kind of growing on that video, we learned that another robot also crashed and shattered glass at a bus shelter in Old Town. That was a Coco robot, and that happened on Tuesday. And so, I mean, you watched the video, right, of the Serve robot.
I was very confused because I seen a couple of angles and it looked like it was moving at a snail's pace. I was very concerned at how much force it was able to generate relative to its speed.
It was wild. Yeah. So it's like in the bus shelter, right? I think it's clearly probably supposed to be going around it. And then you kind of just see it just kind of bumps. Like it's just like it looks like a little bump and then it just shatters. And I sort of saw that and I was like, how easy is it to shatter a bus shelter? Like, I feel like it should be harder, right?
I definitely started victim blaming a little bit. I was like, CT, what kind of glasses y'all using for these shelters? I don't feel protected at all.
I also, just because it's hard to think that a robot, so that, like I said, that was a Serve robot. The Coco officials say that their robots only operate at a top speed of 5 miles an hour, which is like, that's a 12-minute mile, which is a brisk, that's like a slow jog, like that's not super fast. And, you see them with their little faces, right, where the lights are like the little, and it's like kind of hard to be like, that thing just smashed all that glass.
I will say I've seen them a few times around the city, even more since we started talking about them. Some in action, some just kind of posted up in an inconvenient spot on the corner, having to walk around it. And I will say, I've given them a couple playful kicks, and I say playful mostly because I realized the first time I kicked, that thing was stiff. Not gonna lie, it didn't really move all that much. I wonder, how much do the Coco robots weigh? How much does a Coco delivery robot, not cost, I don't give a damn about that, weigh? 100 pounds.
So it weighs less than I do.
Yeah, and feature 90 liters of storage space. Okay, so 100 pounds plus whatever is in it. I mean, that's probably enough. 100
that's
miles,
a person.
5 miles per hour.
Person.
100, yeah. 100 pounds. That feels like it could shatter a window pretty quickly. I also didn't watch the video long enough, or don't know if there was a long enough video to know if it got a few attempts in. Like, did it boom, back up, boom, back up?
Oh, I see. Did it loosen it? Yeah.
Yeah. Did it prep it or no? Did it prime it for a good shatter?
Not in any, I don't know. I haven't seen a longer video as well. So obviously the folks behind these companies have come out and we're like, oh, we're gonna take a look at this. We're gonna make sure everything is okay. I do think it is causing. It's interesting because I do think people were already starting to get quite skeptical as these proliferated. The pilot program was actually approved in 2022, but we didn't see launches until 2024 and then in late 2025. In Lincoln Park, there was a neighbor who launched a petition to try to pause that program. Alderman Daniel Espada in the first, declined to allow the robots to expand past kind of the pilot area. I think the pilot lasts until May 2027, at which point the city council would have to approve if they can kind of engage in this citywide. It's interesting too, because I think it prompts this other question of like, how autonomous are these vehicles? And I was trying to look it up because in 2023, when Coco was pretty much operating in the West and they were kind of testing stuff out, they were using workers behind like Xbox controllers. Like they talked about how they were like hiring video gamers to kind of pilot these. As Serve launched in Chicago late last year, these days Coco is saying that their bots are monitored by humans. Serve says that humans step in as necessary. So you can imagine maybe like, I don't know, there's some alarms going off or something, and then they have to step in and kind of help pilot the robot. I don't know. And I that's always a question to me when we talk about anything quote unquote autonomous, which is just like, okay, but how autonomous is it really?
Yeah, and when somebody says a human is monitoring it, no disrespect to the people who got these jobs, because I can imagine it sounds like what I'm saying is if you work from home, you got it easy, you napping all day. But when I picture someone monitoring one of these vehicles, I do picture somebody with their feet kicked up, eating Flamin' Hots, rewatching The Wire. Like, it seems like a job that you can turn away from, kind of let the robots do their own thing.
Well, and maybe then the robot runs into a bus shelter.
And I will say, the robot looked drunk. The way it like backed up, had to realign. I think maybe
that's what it was, Jacoby.
It was shaking itself off. It looked like a drunk Chicagoan running through the glass and just sort of.
I think there was a familiarity maybe in watching the video. I think I've seen this character before. I think I've seen this.
Let me just go personify the robot. It's the eyes. The way the eyes.
It's hard not to anthropomorphize it, Jacoby.
Yeah, the way it was moved. Right, that's the word I was looking for. The way it was moving and just the little eyes, it looked hella drunk. And so,
which is
again,
like part
if you
of
tell me,
the trick. That's what they want. They want us to think it's cute so that we're nice to it. Like, that's kind of the whole thing.
No, it looked like the little animal from Shang-Chi that Trevor had befriended. But because now I'm wondering the PR spin of it, right? Do you put it off on a human monitor and say, I don't want people to lose faith in the robot, so we're going to throw somebody under the bus and say they should have been paying attention. The sidewalk was difficult to navigate. Not every Chicago sidewalk is the same dimensions. And so the robot misaligned itself. That's where human monitors should know the error code, step in.
Okay, if I'm the CTA, you know how I'm spinning this? Look at how clean the glass is. The robot can't see through it. It doesn't know the glass is there.
Ooh, no. People always complaining about
how dirty
our bus shelters, our train platforms. The glass is so clean, robots run right through it.
Robots can't see through it.
Nah, that's
my spin.
No,
that's
honestly,
my
I
pitch.
need a sketch now of the CTA glass cleaner and them going, I mean, I'm doing my job so well. Like, what do you expect? Like,
what do you expect?
Honestly, it was a compliment to me. I was pretty cool.
They got to put reflective things on the glass so that people don't run into it. Yeah.
If you want to get a little more political attack ad with it, I'm using this to attack Waymo. If I'm CTA, stick with public transit. Even if there's not a conductor there, you're going to get where you need to get. Trust CTA.
You know who can see the bus shelter? The bus driver.
Exactly. It's like, trust the bus driver before you trust the robots. Like, I would lean into an anti-robot campaign if I was CTA, but I also think there is some tongue in cheek to saying, come on. I won an award this year. My glass was so clean last year. 2 different autonomous robots ran into it because they thought it was just open air. That's a damn good idea, Simone. That's a damn good idea. I want to hear from y'all. 773-780-0246. What do you think about the idea of an AI-powered school? No teachers, 2-hour learning plan, 2-hour lesson plans on the computer. I want to hear y'all thoughts, but also delivery robots. Has this changed your mind on them? Are you less likely to order one now? Are you more interested in ordering one to see if it gets into a catastrophic accident with the bus glass? Again, let us know at 773-780-0246. We really want to hear from y'all on this. Simone, before we get out of here, I got to ask you, what would you rather be talking about right now than the rise of data centers, delivery robots, autonomous vehicles, AI schools, ChatGPT, Claude? Like, man, how quickly this has become daily conversations, mentors being like, you better learn AI or you're going to be knocked out of the job market. Like, God, shut up. Shut up. What would you rather be talking about right now?
I'm obsessed with the grubs in Wells Park.
Oh, yes. Every time this story comes up, because they feel like they've done everything they can over there.
Yes. Okay. If you have not been following this, I'm obsessed. I am obsessed with and they're in Winnemac Park too. So yes. Wells Park in the Lincoln Park neighborhood, and then Winnemac Park, sort of Lincoln Square, Bowmanville.
One of my favorite places to watch a little league.
Yes, and it's the grubs are ruining Little League. Okay. So this year, once again, these June beetle grubs are coming up and they're ruining the grass at these parks and the turf. And the problem is it makes the Little League fields like impossible to play in. Like it gets muddy and gross. And then of course you got all these grubs everywhere that are disgusting and they're not cute, man. I mean, unless you're into bugs like that, like they are. It's right. It's not fun. But this has been happening a few times over the past several years. This keeps happening where the grubs are delaying Little League. They're ruining the park. And the neighbors are just racking their heads trying to figure out how to, and the park district for that matter, over how to deal with these grubs. And they've been reseeding and they the turf comes, the grass comes back up, but they're talking about unleashing a bunch of chickens to eat the grubs, which that is a sight I desire to see, is a bunch of chickens just pecking at the grubs. But then the problem might be that the chickens can't peck deep enough because they burrow really, really deep, and then that's how they lay their eggs really, really deep, and then the grubs kind of come up during rains and stuff in the springtime. This has to do with
we want to use animals to push back on other animals. It's one of my favorite brands of ecological maintenance. Let's introduce some chickens. Let's introduce some feral cats.
Well, and then you have people who are like, okay, well, what about all of the migrating birds? Because apparently geese or whatever would be better at it. They could get deeper, but fewer birds are migrating through Chicago. We've had a lot of issues with that. So it's a broader ecological question of who is going to be eating these grubs. It also is associated with cycles of drought in Illinois, that they when we go into kind of drought cycles, that there tend to be more of them and they come out. I'm obsessed. I am obsessed with the grubs in these parks. I don't know why. I think it is just such an interesting story to me, because what do you do about them? And if the answer is unleash chickens, I want to be there and I want to see the video.
No, that's a good one. Every time this story comes up, I stop and pay attention. A question for you. I'm not sure. Are these something, because I know that they've had incidents in 2021 and now it's back again in 2026. What's leading to the growth there? Is it the lack of the dwindling population of birds migrating through? Is it something they're doing with the soil? When were they?
It's a
maybe
lot
not
of
introduced, but go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know why necessarily this has come up most recently. I think partly it has to do with some climate patterns. I think maybe it has to do with the bird patterns. I think the other thing that it speaks to is we talk about monoculture of grass. Grass, this is another thing that I would love to talk about more often. turf grass, like most grass is not like a natural thing in most places in the United States. Like lawns and big like turf fields, yes, it's real grass, yes, it's a real plant, but it's not like a thing that naturally grows here or how the natural environment would be growing. And so this sort of monoculture is, they speculate, is one reason that, you know, we see kind of these infestations of bugs like this. And so it has a lot to do with like the story of Chicago's natural environment is being told with the emergence of these grubs and the ruining of Little League fields here on the north side.
They're looking for better irrigated fields, it sounds like. Sounds like the amount of foot traffic.
Which like parks, it's like a big, it's like a big open area that gets watered frequently, right? Either because, you know, the parks maintenance staff, right, they're keeping that up.
Right. And so drought in other parts of the city means that
they'll come and they'll lay their eggs there. And then the grubs come up.
And it sounds like because these Wells Park, Winamac Park are so heavily trafficked, so many people are going through them and using them, it sounds like those birds are less likely to come in and really get their sort of goat clearing a weeds field on. And so interesting. So what do you think they should do? Is this a thing where you maybe hold off people, like close the park down for a little bit and let the birds go wild? Is it simply planting different native plants and different like using different soil?
I don't know how you solve the Little League. I would love someone, I don't know if anyone's out there. I guess this is the story. This is the true story. If someone is out there who can marry sort of the planting of native plants with how to still have Little League, like that's the crossover that I would want to see. Like, I personally get rid of the grass. I don't care. I don't like it. I don't want the grass there. I have no emotional attachment to grass. But I do have emotional attachment to Little League, and I want the Little Leaguers to be able to play baseball. And so if there is a short crop natural thing that we could do, or an actual maintenance that we could pay for, and a cadence on which that would work, that is not so monocultural and maybe attracts different wildlife. Now, again, does that mean, do you end up attracting more birds in the outfield and you got to watch out for that? I don't know, maybe, but I that's got to be a better problem to solve than grubs ruining Little League.
No, that's actually a very good story, Simone.
Jacoby, what is a story that you would want to talk about instead of the robots?
So what's interesting is I took that prompt in a complete different direction than you did, because it sounds like you actually want to talk about the grubs in Wells Park, whereas I heard that it was like, what is something that I would rather talk about because I hate talking about this so much? And the first thing that came to mind is the proliferation of Top Dog Law advertising around Chicago. I think it is one of the most, if not the most prolific private ad campaigns running through the city. So many of them are positioned on the south and west sides. I was through Roseland, Calumet Heights, Inglewood, back of the yards, and Hyde Park this weekend. They're everywhere. They're all over the place.
They're on the buses, though. Ever since you mentioned this to me, I'm noticing it more and more, for sure.
The likelihood that one of the bus shelters that one of those robots ran through had a Top Dog Law sign somewhere on it or near it wouldn't shock me at all. And so I really want to know, one, how much are they paying to wrap this entire city in advertising with the smug face of his white man on the cover, and ways that, let's be real, feel particularly geared towards black folks, brown folks? They feel a little exploitative. And then I read a story.
Well, it's very like ambulance chasey kind of.
Exactly. Which again, vibe. Most personal injury lawyers, it all feels very kitschy. Right. Like the goal is to get you to pay attention as much as possible. But I read an article, maybe it was late last year, about Terrell Lucky John, who is the voice behind all of those wild ass radio commercials from Top Dog Law. And a part of me is like, damn, get your money, man. You are the Jake of State Farm for these unhinged commercials. But at the same time, I would love to know the economics of it all. How much does it cost to keep advertising up this long? And also, is anyone checking on this? Or are some of them just sort of out of date, left up, no one's replaced them? how do you get such a big footprint in a city that's not your founding?
They're headquartered in Arizona, actually.
Mhm. Okay.
Which is why? Who
Well,
knows?
I heard from the host in CityCast Philly that it's the same thing there. That Top Dog Law is everywhere. The commercials, the billboards, the bus wraps. And I'd rather be getting to the bottom of how this company became the foremost injury law firm in the Chicagoland area. And I'd love for someone to explain to me their marketing strategy, because it feels very blatant. The WGCI commercials is nuts, Simone. They are.
It's so funny because I
nuts.
listen to so little commercial radio. Like the only time I'm listening to it is when I'm in an Uber where it's already playing.
Maybe that's why. Maybe people undervalue the radio space, the billboard space, and the bus space now. And so they're just able to cash in.
I mean, Jacoby, if CityCast Chicago could afford putting your face on billboards everywhere in the way that Top Dog does, I'd be out here doing it, Jacoby.
You know?
I would be doing it. It would be happening. But that's why the question about cost is super interesting to me, because like it is not cheap for those.
Not at all.
Those bus ads, those billboards, like that's not nothing.
I want to give a huge thank you to our executive producer, Simone Alicea. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Hey, thanks, Jacoby.
Before we get out of here, you know, I got some good news. If you are interested, it is officially opening day in the major leagues. And I figure if you are interested, you don't need me to tell you that. But I'm going to remind you anyway. The Cubs are home for their opener against the Nationals today, while the Sox start their season on the road against the Brewers. Their home opener isn't until next Thursday versus the Blue Jays. If you're going to any of these like first week, first month games, go on and try out the new menu items and reach out to me and let me know what they hitting for. 773-780-0246. Name, neighborhood, and what you ordered. You ain't got to tell me how much it costs. I already know it's going to be expensive as hell. Was it good? I appreciate you. I'm going to be back bright and early tomorrow breaking down some of the big stories from the week. I'll talk to you then. Peace.